Hey kiteboarders, Aaron here with Elite Watersports, hanging out here in the OBX. Been here for about a week and a half, and well, this is our first light wind day, so we're going to take advantage of it and tune our bars. And what I'm talking about tuning our bars, well, if your bar's not tuned, your kite's not going to operate properly. Stay tuned, make sure you like and subscribe our videos, and we'll keep them rolling. All right, first step, guys, you're going to make sure that you pick a location where you can attach your leash to, and that it's going to be pretty strong. You're going to have to run your lines out and untangle them so that you have a nice clean bar as if you're hooking up to a kite. So we're going to do that first. Okay, here we are. We're at the very end of our lines. We just ran them all out. They're all completely untangled. And we can't automatically assume that our lines are going to be all the same length, okay? We're going to have all these pigtails, and ultimately these pigtails are what are attaching to the kite, okay? So that's going to be our control. And if you notice, there's loops, and then there's knots, and then loops. And some of these knots will have like a little loop on the inside. It might take a while for you to get the hook through it. And what I mean by hook, that's going to be your leash, okay? Your leash hook, all right? Some people use nails or whatnot on like a tree or truck or anything like that. But in this case, I don't have that option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lark's head and then pass the line through that lark's head. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this leash and hook it up to that lark's head, so it looks like that. And then the tension on the outside lines should hold my front lines as long as it's tight. So I'm going to do that on both of them. Now if I have to put extra tension on my front lines, what I'll have to do is use a different variation of how to connect these lines, okay? But we're just trying to see how whacked this bar is right now. So this is good enough. All right, here we are. So we have all four lines connected all in the same location, attached to a leash to a nice strong location. And you know, this isn't going to be strong enough for us to lean back into if we ultimately have to put some tension on the lines to tune it, okay? So that's connected. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk right back down to the bar. All right, here we are down at the end of our bar, and we're going to do a couple things right away. We're going to grab it, make sure that the lines are completely untangled. The next thing you want to do is make sure it's fully powered up. Fully powered up is going to have that line fully extended out of the cleat, and that's about it, what you're doing, okay? You're going to take the bar, you're going to hold the bar right on the inside, not on the outsides at first. You're not going to put a lot of tension on it. You're going to pull on it, and then you're going to pull on the chicken loop. If you notice, there's about a 3-inch gap right here. That means our bar is not tuned very well, okay? So what we'll have to do is figure out a way to either stretch our outside lines, which is easily done, or we're gonna have to extend those lines by putting a pigtail in or adjustments, and that's gonna be a little bit on the more technical side. But more so than not, you are able to actually stretch those lines back out. They're not really stretching, they're shrinking. The lines are actually kind of like hollow on the inside, and as debris forms and whatnot, that hollow, almost Chinese finger trap expands, and the lines get a little bit shorter and ends up shrinking. So what you're going to do is, if you can put tension into that line, you're going to actually stretch them back out one by one. Now if you notice, the bar is slightly longer on this side now because I've been adding some tension to it, and ultimately you want that bar to stop right above the chicken loop, right about here, and right now it's about 3 inches. It's already pulled out quite a bit. Remember, all your weight is on these front lines, and you have very little weight on your steering lines, and that's why those steering lines are shrinking constantly. So I'm going to add some more weight, and hopefully my knot up there in the front is going to hold. Here we are. Now you can see that the black line is a little bit longer. The bar is not perfectly perpendicular to the center line, so I'm going to put some more effort into my white line. And I could actually feel those lines stretch out as I go. There's also only a certain point of how much line you can actually stretch out. So at some point, you're going to have to do something different than just yanking on the lines, okay? And that's when you come in with extensions or pigtails or minor adjustments with knots. So that's looking absolutely perfect. And remember, it is supposed to stop about a ½ inch above your chicken loop, fully powered up. Other bars on the market, not all, some bars will have adjustability in these lines underneath. So if you can't get that stretch out of it, what you can do is look underneath the bar or underneath the floats, and you'll see a couple of knots underneath them. Some kites have discontinued putting adjustability on the wingtips, and they have resorted to just strictly adjustability underneath the bar. All right, so ultimately what you're looking for is all 4 lines to be all connected at the same identical location at the end. As you stretch them out and you pull on that bar, and where the chicken loop is and where the chicken loop ends, that bar should just barely touch the top of it. So this is a perfectly tuned bar, all right? As far as the outside lines go, let's look at the front lines. Now the front lines are a little bit different beast, okay? Front lines are very important, because if one of your front lines is just slightly longer than the other, what it's going to do on the short line is going to pull that kite consistently always in that direction, all right? So what we do is we grab that front yoke where the 2 lines split off, and it doesn't matter if it's a high V or low V or a circle or a bracket, but they need to be the same length, okay? So with tension on your main support, which is your flat or your adjustable line, your trim line, okay, if you pull on that, and if you notice that bracket is slightly down on this right side, it's not perfectly square. This kind of bracket does make it pretty hard to get this perfect, okay? And it does have a sense of automatically adjusting itself, but we still want to make sure that it's about the same length, so the kite always operates at the same thing. It's like tuning getting alignment on your car. All of a sudden you realize after the alignment is like, wow, this car drives so much nicer, and I had just gotten used to the car maybe pulling right or left or whatnot. After this tuning, now all of a sudden your kite's going to fly like it did out of the bag, as long as it's not bagged out or whatnot. At least your bar is going to be correct. So you're going to pull on here and make sure that these lines are good to go. If one's longer than the other, what you're going to do is take the short one, and you'll just lean back into that short one. Make sure you don't fall back. Lean back into it and try to stretch it out to its original length. And then what ends up happening is that bracket will be nice and perpendicular to these lines. So ultimately that's perfect on the front lines. All right, so this is bar tuning, and now let's learn some bar magic.